All right, good afternoon, Precalc. I am recording this and it is a Sunday morning and I'm not going to put my face on screen because not looking too hot yet this morning. So, this is a lesson that is usually a review lesson for Precalc students, but depending where you came from, whether you had Algebra 2 or Honors Algebra 2, this is a topic that may have been taught last spring during COVID. So you may not remember this as well as other years. So I just need you to go with it and do your best. What I am going to do is, I think I will do the odds on this worksheet, and then I will suggest that you try the evens and then check the slide notes on the smart notes that I attach as a PDF to see if you did them right. And then the actual assignment for practice on this is from Delta Math. All right, so to simplify, when you multiply fractions, you just multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. So this really just becomes one giant multiplication problem, but we can reduce the fraction by factoring and then dividing things out. I've tried not to use the word cancel, even though that's what we always call it. All right, so we're going to take this one and take an 8 out. And we have an a-2 down here. And then over here, we can take a 5 out of that one. And that'll become an a-2, which will divide out with this a-2. And then down here, we can take a 5 out, and that'll leave an a+3. Now these 5s also divide out. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So we have an 8 and an a-8 all over an a+3 left, okay? And you could put the bottom in parentheses as well. You could multiply the 8 through the top, but they usually leave it in factored form, just showing that nothing more cancels. Divides out, sorry. All right, let's see. Number 3, remember dividing fractions means you flip them over. The second one flips. So I'm going to go ahead and factor as I rewrite this. I'm going to take a 7r out of these two. And down here, that'll stay r plus 5. And then this one, this is now the top. So I'm going to take out an 8r squared. And that'll leave an r plus 5, if I did that right. And down here, this guy goes to the bottom and is going to be two binomial factors, r plus 10 and r minus 5. Let's double check that'd be r squared plus 5r minus 50. Yes, okay. My factoring is correct. Now, because this is multiplication now, it's just one giant multiplication. Anything on top with anything on the bottom divides out and reduces. All right, I have a 7r times an 8r squared, which is a 56r cubed. In the denominator, I have an r minus 5 left. That's it, and you don't really need those parentheses. All right, so multiplying and dividing, easy peasy. Adding and subtracting, okay, to be able to add and subtract, you require a common denominator. All right, now, I know a lot of you just kind of think of it as cross multiplying here, but it's really not cross multiplying because you can only cross multiply when there's an equal sign in here. Now, you have to be real careful here. This x plus 2 does not divide out because this is a whole quantity down here. I don't know what happened here. I lost my pen. This is a whole quantity. The 5 is multiplied by only the x. You can't divide anything out. All right, but the common denominator for this first, well, for both of them here, for this first fraction it needs to have, besides the x plus 6, it needs a 5x plus 2. So that the common denominator will have both of those factors. And this one already has a 5x plus 2, but to have the same denominator as the other one, it would need an x plus 6. It had an x plus 2, and we're going to multiply it by an x plus 6. All right, that's kind of scribbledy, I apologize. So the new denominator is that it has both an x plus 6 and a 5x plus 2. But we have to do a bunch of stuff up top to simplify. First, we can distribute here, 30x plus 12. Now, because it's add, it's a little bit easier because if it was a minus, we'd have to also distribute the negative, but it's addition, so all we have to do back here is FOIL this together, and this was a 6, just kidding. Okay, so when we FOIL that together, we get an x squared, I'll go ahead and write it out, a 2x and a 6x and a 12. Now when we combine all those like terms up top, we have an x squared. Let's see, that took care of that one. Then we have these 3 would be 38x. And then we have two 12s back here, which will be plus 24. All right. And it's all over an x plus 6 and a 5x plus 2. So the question is, can we factor the top so that maybe something reduces? But the biggest numbers that go in here are 24 and 1, and that's not going to add up to 38. If we did 2 and 12, we'd only get 14. If we did 8 and 3, we'd get 11. Yeah, we're not going to get to 38. So this is just our answer, does not factor. All right. Now, here's what I was talking about. We don't really need to cross multiply here or even use both of these for the common denominator. There is no cross multiplying when there's not an equal in the middle. So what we do need to do, if we factor out a 3 here, that leaves an m plus 5. Sorry, puppy toenails across the floor. Lay down, baby. All right. So we have a 3 and an m plus 5 in this denominator, and this one just has an m plus 5. So we don't need to go crazy with multiplying everything. We just need a 3 on this one, and then they'll be the same. So that leaves a 2, and this becomes a 6m over here. And down in the denominator, we have a 3 and an m plus 5. Now, we could take the 2 out of the top, just to show what happens. It would be a 1 plus 3m, which I'll write 3m plus 1, I guess, just to be math teacher friendly, but doesn't matter. But nothing divides out anyway, so either of these are okay. All right, then I think I have a couple examples of subtracting, which can just be one extra step of misery sometimes. All right. So this had a 5m. We could take a 2 out down here. I don't think it's going to really help us. We'd have 7m minus 9. And over here, we have a 3. And down here, we have an m plus 8. Now, to get a common denominator, we are going to have to multiply this guy by an m plus 8. Let me see if I can move this. Really like to write it down there. Guess not. All right, just a little more room. So this one needs an m plus 8. Over an m plus 8. And this one, remember, we might want to change this to plus and negative, so remember to distribute it. because this one needs both a 2 and a 7m minus 9. So that both denominators have a 2, an m plus 8, and a 7m minus 9. Okay, so our new common denominator has a 2, a 7m minus 9, and an m plus 8. Guys, we're not solving, we're just simplifying expressions here. There is no equal sign, and the denominator does not go away. It's still there. All right, up top, if we distribute, we get a 5m squared plus 40m. Over here, this becomes a negative 6. So when I distribute a negative 6 through here, I get a negative 42m plus 54. Because remember, this was a negative 6. And then I'm distributing it to both of those terms. All right, so the numerator now has a 5m squared minus 2m plus 54. Yikes. That looks like it could be nasty to try to factor. The denominator stays the same. The only thing that would help us, honestly, is if there was a 7m minus 9 up top. Because there, clearly 8 isn't going to be a factor of 54. 2 doesn't go into all these. 9 goes into 54, but 7m doesn't gonna be a factor here. So even if this factored, it wouldn't help. I don't think it does. We'd have to have a 5m and an m. And the factors of 54 would be 1 and 54, 2 and 27, 3 and 18. That's not right, is it? 3 and 1836. Yeah, I think it is 50. Okay. 6 and 9. Did I miss any? 4 does not go in there. 5, 6, 7. Okay, I think that's it. And using the 5m and the m to get a negative 2 in the middle, when this is positive, would mean they both had to be negative. There's no way. You can't get a smaller number in there when you start multiplying all that. So that does not factor. Okay, just proving that to myself, maybe to you too. All right, that was no fun. I'm actually going to erase this because I'm going to need that room when I do the other problem. So this was prime. Whoa, what happened? Up top, it didn't factor. All right. Whoa, that's it? Okay. Maybe on the video I'll do one more. How about this number 8? And then I'll shut down the video and you can try the other ones. This has a 3. I can take a 4 out down here and I'll have an x plus 2. Over here, I have a 2. Move this over a little bit. And then down here, I have an x plus 2 twice. In order for these to have a common denominator, this one needs another x plus 2. And this one needs a 4. And then they both have a 4 and 2 x plus 2's. Okay, so we have a 4 and an x plus 2 times an x plus 2, or we could write it x plus 2 squared. Up top we have, I'm going to distribute this, 3x plus 6, and then this would be minus 8, which would simplify to a 3x minus 2, which is not going to reduce with anything down here. But that's an example of, if you tried to rewrite this by multiplying by an x plus 2 twice, and then over here multiplying by a 4x plus 8, you'd have this huge, icky, nasty denominator that would eventually reduce down to this, but way too much extra work. It's what it's related to, and then I'll be done. If you have 5/24 minus 1/3, you don't need to use 72 for the common denominator, right? Because 3 goes into 24. So you could just multiply this by 8/8, and then you would have a common denominator, okay? So don't make your denominator any bigger than you need to. Unfortunately, a lot of these are still going to have a big denominator. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the top. One thing here, very important. You are not solving on these. No equal sign, okay? And the other thing is, sometimes after we do rational equations, students think that there's no denominator on some of these anymore. The only way there would not be a denominator is if it all cancels. So there's usually still a denominator. It doesn't magically go away. When we do rational equations, we get rid of the denominator by multiplying through by the least common denominator, and then that carries over and people do these wrong. So, all right, yay, 16-minute video, go me.